Call the Ironton City Council meeting of August 8th, 2024 to order. With us this evening is Matt O'Brien from Calvary Baptist Church to give our invocation. If you would stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to follow our invocation.
Dear Father, we thank you for this day you've given us, and we thank you for this city and their leadership. And we pray for them this evening as they conduct the business of the city. And we pray that everything's done in decency and in order. And we just thank you for an opportunity to come and to open this in prayer. We pray for our leaders, not just locally, but nationally. And we just pray that they see your face and pray your blessings upon this great time. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Brown.
Here.
Cleary.
Here.
Haynes.
Here.
Harvey.
Here.
Hawk.
Here.
Vaughn.
Here.
Harry.
Here.
Next in our meeting agenda is the regular council meeting minutes of July 25th, 2024. Any errors, omissions, addition to those meeting minutes? Hearing none, those affect me out. Scratching your head.
No, sorry.
Those meeting minutes will stand as approved. Next is audience participation. Before we start audience participation, I would like to address council and the audience and just something that's been on my mind. The better part of the last 3 months, we have heard from our citizens in the north end of Ironton about the storm project, and I can only speak for myself, but I imagine that you all are frustrated by the fact that this body is to legislate and appropriate and not to execute contracts or run the day-to-day operation of the city, and so we never have the answers and act somewhat as a middleman, and so I would like to be able to direct our citizens to the appropriate channels, which are Allard Excavation, our city engineer, which is Arcadis, and the mayor's office, if there's questions about the North End Ironton storm project. So I am respectfully asking that anyone who has questions, that be the appropriate channels. Allard, Arcadis, and the mayor's office. With that said, I would like to open the floor for, I also do realize one other thing I'd like to add. Some of you all have been frustrated with me leading the meeting because we strike a balance of being the only public meeting. And so we strike that balance of giving citizens an opportunity to address the council, even though a lot of times those concerns are not really something that we can do about, but rather something that the mayor's office or some contractor has to do something about. So it's just as much an address to you all as it is to our audience that I respectfully request that those questions be appropriately delegated to Allard, Arcadis, and the mayor's office. Comments? Mr. Haney?
Regarding the contact information, we have that on the city website.
They just call the office. We'll give them the information.
We'll just direct them that way.
If they don't have it already.
Can we get that posted on Facebook or on the website or something, just for an easy access to phone number, email possibly?
We can probably give them an office number.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is audience participation. So if you would like to address the Ironton City Council, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes to address the council.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Reeves.
and I own the property 109 Woodlawn Drive. In the year, let me see, sorry, years, right? In the year of 2013, we have been at City Council to have a drainage problem corrected from the property behind our home. And it was taken care of then. People along Carl Drive had to remove their drain pipes from their homes that had led down onto the property on Woodlawn. Well, the family, the family that lives behind us, Adam family, have attached those lines back. And whereas in 2013 they had 2 lines, now they have 3 lines, and they're flooding that property down on Woodlawn. I have an appointment tomorrow in the morning with the mayor to see what can be done. Before, in 2013, the code enforcer sent a letter to the property owner at that time. This Adams family is a new owner of the home, and they simply told them that they had to disconnect those lines, and it was done all the way through there. Matter of fact, when we had a meeting with City Council, the whole neighborhood showed up because everybody was being flooded. I realize we're going to have to go through the proper channels, as you stated, but I would also suggest that there be someone on the other end of that phone when you do call the mayor's office, that some of the people would be there in the departments. I have called every department and asked for someone to please help us, and have received no callback. I have received some assistance from the mayor's secretary, and that's it. And I mean, I have called everyone. No answers.
Carolyn, yeah, that's the fact that you have an appointment with the mayor tomorrow. You're right. That's the appropriate way to handle it.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to do anything as a body about it, but I do want to remind, not just for you, but for anybody that listens to this, on our city website, we do have report a problem for code enforcement.
You're right.
Have you tried that?
I've done that.
Okay. And usually if you leave your name and email address, you get updates as to what's being done about it.
Done it all.
Okay.
Phil, I followed the line.
Okay.
And I've no response.
What is your address?
109 Woodlawn Drive. You were there, Bob, and Beth Rest was there, as well as the mayor and John Willis. At that time, he was code enforcer.
Mr. Hank.
I just want to know the actual address number.
I grew up on Carl Drive. I'm trying to figure out what house you're on. But my question is for the solicitor: is the property owner allowed to drain their water?
No, you're not allowed to drain water on someone else's property, but that's a civil matter that really needs to be dealt with in the courts. Now, if it is a city drain, something that the city controls, that's one thing. But if they are draining, for example, their runoff of their house onto their property, then that's a separate civil action that you may need to consult with a lawyer and take action against them. Because you're not going to do that. But as far as the city, I mean, I would leave that to the mayor, whether or not it's city water runoff or not. It could just be these individuals have placed it, and I don't know that the city really has standing to.
Is it like corrugated pipe, black corrugated pipe running?
Is it coming off the roof?
Yeah. And they're gutters. They attach the gutters to the pipe and they're running down the hill. Last year, when Bob and Beth were out there, Beth took a ruler, and the property's sliding. and Beth took a ruler, and there was, huge, I don't know, where the property's moving. And, there was a place that was actually 22 inches deep that had slid and left this big hole behind. And
my suggestion, I think it's a civil matter. I personally, if they're not being like cooperative with you.
I haven't talked to them, but I know that they know.
I'd suggest sticking with your appointment tomorrow with the mayor and see if he has any other suggestions. And, we may be able to have code enforcement put a note before you get to courts.
Right, because I do know there is a code that disallows that, but we need a letter sent forward, and I can have a copy of it. That's why I'm here this evening, because I'm just going in a path, going this way, so I can progress to an attorney.
Thank you.
Mary, can you give us a follow-up on that?
I just heard about it today, so we're waiting to see everything tomorrow.
Good deal. Thank you.
All right.
Mary Ann Tussey, 1507 Karen Street. And this is a little bit related to what you don't want to hear about. But I have a water meter that was installed that has never worked. It's one of the newer ones. And since Aaron's here, they told me that that would be replaced with all the work that's being done in Green Valley. Is that still planned? Because they have to come down every month and read my meter.
We have those. I can speak to that without him. He's been to finance committee and the council because some of those nodes, the battery life is really less than we were promised because of our manhole covers, and so I know it's been an ongoing issue that we've replaced almost 40% of those nodes. So I would imagine if you were told it's going to be replaced, it will be, and also probably have a plastic manhole cover, or I say plastic, something not as thick metal.
And this work will be arranged. We won't be sitting there waiting on it to be done. Correct. So that we get, okay. And then I don't have any questions, just a comment. I think it's really upsetting that you don't want to hear about the conditions down in Green Valley considering what we're going through. And it really disappoints me because you say that you don't have anything to do with it, but you all still voted for what's going on down there. And that's my only comment, and I won't say anything else about it.
No, it's fair. It's fair. And as I've told you privately and here publicly, it's our job to balance that, to hear from the public, but at the same time, there's nothing we could do once we fund the project.
Well, he gave me a timeline last time, and that's actually one of the questions I had. Do we have an update on the timeline? Since nothing's put on the website, we never know what's going to be.
And see, we don't get an update on the timeline, but the mayor's office does, and the engineering office does. So again,
so why don't they put that online? Because you can't always get I can't get the mayor's office. I've never spoken to the
concrete. That's why it wasn't put out, because it's behind, because we knew it was going to be behind because of weather and other delays, things like
We
that.
had good weather for it to be done. And just one
2
more.
days of bad weather can set you back a week.
My other question was, and this comment was just made about the asphalt being triple the price, any chance we can go back to concrete instead of asphalt in Green Valley?
that contract's been awarded and funded and paid for. So no, it's already been paid for. This was in regard to a future project.
Okay, and since I still have 2 minutes, I'm still going to comment that when it rains down there, the water's still laying in the streets. You can't go uphill to a catch basin. So I don't know if y'all are aware of that, and I don't know if y'all have been back down there, but the streets continue to be horrible. We still have to walk. We had a lady that had to be carted out by a stretcher. The EMS couldn't get to her, and I just want that as a record that all these things are going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Leah Spencer, resident of 7th Street and a student of University of Kentucky studying public policy. I came here to not criticize the board or the mayor, but merely give 2 suggestions that can improve our city. The first one is a recommendation to make a grant for the parks in Ironton. There was an improvement of the park on Etna, which was amazing. It's a beautiful, safe, upgraded infrastructure for kids to play on. On the other hand, there's parks like 9th Street or the one behind the high school that has been down and has gone down tremendously since I was born here 18 years ago. The park equipment has been the same since I was younger, and sometimes odd to always come back home and see us changed. On 9th Street, the wood is chipped over, just painted over. We all know about the dangerous monkey bars made out of metal and the slides. In the area, there used to be for smaller children and baby swings, but it disappeared, and a seesaw that's off balance, and the merry-go-round is still the same. There are private and public events thrown there often, so shouldn't the public parks get an upgrade to more use for people? I also have a quote from Ironton Tribune from the article Ironton Parks Get an Upgrade, published on Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. They added a quote from Mr. Chris Cheney, the recreation chair, stating, "It is a really nice and expensive piece of equipment, but it is really safe. The surface we have is really safe. It's not like the 15-foot slides of solid metal we had like back in the day, which 9th Street Park still has now." I would also like to recommend that Miss Mackenzie Long gets added an Ironton sign when you first come into town by the university, and added banner for the rest of the great legends of Ironton on the light poles. I would love to advocate that she's a great example for the youth here, and that everyone can excel and do great things, and also shows that Ironton supports their community and the people from here. I know these things won't be in place right away, but I would love to see a change slowly over time, and I do appreciate everyone taking their time to listen. Thank you.
Nia, hang on. I got a bunch of hands up, but
sorry.
It's okay.
I'm a little nervous.
You can take a breath. It's all right. That's all right. So, as far as the parks go, the one behind the high school is Ironton High School's. It's not ours, so it's the Ironton City Schools area. The
So
one on
would that-
9th Street is Metropolitan Housing Authority, and it's not the city's.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have some parks that are being upgraded that are in our control, but the ones specifically that you mentioned are not in our control. We have tried to work with those entities to make sure that specifically that they get in contact with some of our local nonprofits that are looking at handicap accessible playground equipment. And so it is top of mind about our public parks and about safety. Those 2 specifically that you mentioned, though, we don't control the rights to do anything to those. Also, when it comes to Mackenzie Long, just FYI, I graduated high school with her mom and her dad.
Great.
Tara and Michael. Both great people. But the mayor's office is working on something to honor her. The council also has discussed, I'm not sure as a whole body, but I've discussed it with Mr. Perry and a couple other people, that we would like to recognize her when she is in town, but that's going to be based on her timeline. And the mayor's secretary, Terry, has been working with her father, Michael, on some kind of timeline on when she'll be here. So those things are in the works. We are proud that she's the 7th fastest woman in the 200 meters, and that she hails from Murphy and Longblood in Ironton, Ohio. Just FYI. I saw your hand first. Perry.
Ms. Spencer, thank you very much. We spoke shortly after the last council meeting. Appreciate your being here at such a young age and showing this kind of interest. The Metropolitan Housing, the park at Metropolitan Housing, I'd like to speak on very specifically. It has been an issue of mine for well over a year. The mayor and Mr. Harvey and I actually sat in a meeting almost a year and a half ago, and it was discussed what could possibly happen to help those upgrades. There are several people sitting in this room right now currently that grew up in that neighborhood, and that park was built in 1967. I know this because I was born in 1968. That park has not had a substantial upgrade since that property was gifted to Metropolitan Housing from the city. I've been horribly disappointed in the fact that the park has been allowed to deteriorate, whether it's Metropolitan Housing's responsibility, whether it's a merry band of good-hearted citizens' responsibility. Bottom line is, as you mentioned, that piece of wooden park equipment, it looks like a torture device, to be honest with you. I wouldn't let my kids play on that if someone held a gun to my head. It's in horrible shape. That piece of equipment specifically, the sliding board has the same dents and rust in it that was there when I was young, when several other people in this room were young. Swing sets that are built to hold 6 have 1. I could go on and on. So you are speaking my language when it comes to this issue. Fortunately, the previous director of Metropolitan Housing made a very public statement that he didn't get paid enough to deal with people like Chris Perry, so he scurried off to wherever he scurried off, and good and great. Since then, there is a new Metropolitan Housing Board. I requested help from several people in the community, and the only person that seemed as disappointed by the whole situation as I was Judge Andy Ballard. Judge Ballard picked up the ball and ran with it. I gave him all of the contacts of people that I had at HUD, and due to the diligence of Judge Ballard, we were able to reconstitute a board for Metropolitan Housing, and a lot of things have happened and changed, but the fact that children in that neighborhood have been left to twist in the wind as opposed to children in other parts of town, it really, really bothersome to me. So I'm happy to know that moving forward, the existing board is going to make the things of Metropolitan Housing a priority, but I really, really wish that that park would have been one of the very first priorities as opposed to one of the last priorities. So I want to thank you personally for showing up. That's all.
I appreciate you attending and appreciate your concerns and then being vocal at such a young age. Thank you very much. Regarding Ms. Long, I wholeheartedly agree. There's an organization. The city actually doesn't put the hometown hero signs up. I was talking to Bob about it a few months back. So that would be something that we could approach them with, or
They pretty much do now.
Okay, so I wholeheartedly back legislation to do that. And one thing is I am the Parks and Rec chair, and it's extremely frustrating with those two parks. The Old Beechwood and then Ninth Street Park, but that's not under our control because at the moment we are in a major overhaul of the city-owned parks and actually creating new parks. That is a very big issue right now for kids to have safe places to play, and we are wholeheartedly behind providing new equipment, new places for kids to play. So I do want to assure you that there are going to be new playgrounds, but it's extremely frustrating for us as a whole that we can't really do anything with those other two parks. Because we even spoke about it previously about if we could do anything, and our hands are kind of tied in regards to those two. But rest assured that we are, spending a lot of time and a lot of thoughts into new parks and expanding our recreation offerings around here. So thank you very much for that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. One last thing I'd like to chime in on that. Fortunately, due to the crash course that I had in months and months of conversations with the folks at HUD. There are avenues that the city can take, provided, or no, I should take it back. There are avenues the city can take if metropolitan housing is not moving forward in a progressive fashion. I believe that with the newly reconstituted board that is going to happen, but the idea that our hands are tied isn't entirely accurate per several revisions that exist within HUD funding for metropolitan housing. So, and the last thing I'd like to say is the fact that that park has been ignored for decades, 5 decades. It's in my opinion, and I think there are probably several other people that would agree, it is a bad, it's a bad look to allow children in one specific part of town to not have clean, safe, accessible park equipment. In a general sense, it gives the view that the city of Ironton, not entirely accurate, but still gives the view, the perception that the city of Ironton doesn't care about those folks because that is a traditionally low-income part of town. So I think that it's incumbent upon us all, starting with metropolitan housing, the board, the interim director, the new director, everybody that's involved in this, but we are all elected officials for 10,434 people, and that includes people that live in metropolitan housing, whether it's owned by the city or not.
Mr. Perry, I understand what you're saying, but all the parks were neglected because each neighborhood had a school, and all those school playgrounds before the consolidation of the elementary schools and the middle schools, Campbell, Kingsbury, all the neighborhoods did have a playground to play on. Now that the consolidation happened, you know, you're looking at city parks. Before we did 8th Street Park, it hadn't been touched in 50 years. So this isn't something that is, I mean, all the parks were neglected. So it's not just one or the other. It's every single city park we had was neglected. Look at Moulton's Field. Moulton's Field hadn't been touched in years. So it was overlooked because of the schools provided playgrounds in each neighborhood, correct?
Yeah.
And if you're wanting to move forward with it, if you want to present something to the Parks and Rec Committee, I'd be happy to listen.
Great.
I just don't know that we have the authority to.
You have no authority over that.
And that's the, I think.
Other than making an appointment to the board.
I think there's movement in the right direction, but I do agree that it looks bad on us, even though it's not owned by us, and it takes things like this for people to be held accountable and to say it's the Metropolitan Housing Authority that is neglecting that, and even if we had $300,000 to put a brand new playground and pickleball court, and because that's what everybody wants, right? We don't have the authority to do it. Now, in the shape that board was in and not meeting, maybe there was hope, but I think it takes things like this for one, clarity, and to say, hey, we really don't, but we would back helping in the effort to restore that. So, anyway, thank you, Ms. Spencer.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Appreciate it.
Santa Claus?
Sir.
Anything? Okay. Moving on to communications, there are none. Reports, there are none. Ordinances, if the clerk could please give ordinance 2432 first reading.
Amending the permanent operating budget for the city of Ironton, state of Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Bob.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and give ordinance 2432 second, third reading by title only. I want to mention that it was favorably recommended by the Finance Committee.
Perry.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Aye.
Cleary.
Aye.
Hany.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Rules have been suspended to give ordinance 2432 second and third reading by title only. Could the clerk please give ordinance 2432 second and third reading by title only?
Amending the permanent operating budget for the city of Ironton, state of Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency. Second reading. Amending the permanent operating budget for the city of Ironton, state of Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Bob.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2432.
Perry.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Brown.
Aye.
Cleary.
Aye.
Hany.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Ordinance 2432 is adopted. If the clerk could please give ordinance 2433 first reading by title only.
Authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and to accept any bid over the minimum bid price of $300,000 for property known as the Lombard property, being parcel numbers 36-102-0511 and 36-102-1700. First reading.
Bob.
I will make a motion to suspend the rules and give ordinance 2433 second and third reading by title only. And it did get a favorable recommendation by the Finance Committee.
Hany.
Second.
You want discussion after the readings or now?
Whatever works for you. Yeah, I guess just I was going to discuss now. That's good. My question is the number on the section 3B, where it says that the successful bidder must construct at least 20 residential dwellings. I'm just curious on the why 20.
How was it say?
We discussed that we wanted it to be valued at, I think, $4 million or plus, which is probably what that would take.
I'm curious. I'm just comparing to like the old hospital lots because that same block has 12, and so there's a part of me that would hate to see that restricted to smaller lots. When just in that example, you could have 12 developments that would still total
I think
the $4 million.
I think, but Brigham, correct me if I'm wrong, help me here, but I think the majority of those were bought in 2 lot segments. So I think that satisfies that requirement because both lots are built.
Okay. Even though it says 20 residential dwellings?
It says dwellings.
It says dwellings, so that means that you have to construct 20 dwellings, which is separate than what. So LABC, as history, is who owned that property was owned by the hospital, donated to LABC. When they subdivided it, they put in deed restrictions, which is how they, you had to build a certain level of house, you had to do certain things. You were supposed to build it in a certain period of time. So this is basically trying to accomplish the same thing. This was put in, whoever bids on notice that those deed restrictions from the city will apply. But yes, I believe the way it's written, it would be 20 residential buildings.
Can I make a motion to amend?
Yeah, let me get them. Can you guys rescind?
I'll rescind. Make a motion to rescind.
Haney rescinds his second. Bob rescinds his motion. Robbie.
I would just like to make a motion to amend the 20 to 12 on the dwellings, but still keeping the $4 million value the same.
I don't know. The thought behind this is there's a huge need for housing too right now. So you need more units than ever. Everything's full. Just pricing people out of the city, Frank. I think we just need more developments going on. The 20 was the number that is suitable for the lot size. It's over 2 acres. I mean, it's not. These would be some very large resident. And if we amend this, we need to amend what the single lot's going to be. I think it should be 500,000. 12.
For the total investment, we need to go up.
Per house.
Reduction.
Yeah, which is probably a little bit too steep.
Just-
There's a need for specific types of housing. So I think having more, more options available is the best thing.
I think my concern is we have a lot of standard size lot housing in town. We don't have a lot of larger lot, more suburban style housing that is, I think, popular right now, especially, it's just that to me, that's a missing demographic.
I was just thinking as far as like everyone that's doing developments, some that are doing it with property they've already obtained, they have to also, they want to make money. So I don't know if they're going to make any profit off of doing 12 homes and still stay within our restrictions. I mean, our restrictions are pretty tight, I think, as it is already.
Hey,
The lots would they go, because there's no alley, correct? I mean, I know what the one thing is, would the lots be all the way around the block? Or
I don't know, it could end up, it also states in there it could be an industrial or
Right.
commercial. That's why I'm like, I don't, who knows what it's going to, it's just ideally to keep a minimum for residential, and like, what would be the worst is if someone bought that lot and put one house on it, I think we're looking at property taxes on the school side, we're looking at utility users more so, because that kind of helps come right back into our offers. That's where we see more money, is with more units, and we need more people to have options here in the city. It's drying up everywhere around the tri-state, so the more the merrier.
I guess my recommendation was not to say that it had to be only 12, but that the minimum, because right now we're saying that they have to construct at least 20. I'm saying, should we consider lowering that at least value? If the purchaser wanted to do 20, great. But are we restricting people from building larger homes with garages that we're not going to be able to fit there with 20?
Nate,
How about a compromise? Could you put 20 at 4 million or a minimum of 12 at 6 million? If you say it's $500,000 homes at those size
There were
lots.
2 acres, so and like even like a R1, which is single lots. That's like a quarter acre. That's a large lot. So it's a large space of prop. This, I think, larger than the hospital area. In my opinion,
Pretty close.
it's 2.5 acres. They were going to build a jail on it. It's pretty decent. It's a couple city blocks.
I was just comparing it to, if you look one block over, the houses that are there, that comes out to what would be 20.
We just see maximized value on the lot plus maximized return. So it's like if you get 20, that's 20 utility users that are going into the funds that you guys have to raise or not raise rates on. So
My follow-up question was, Reagan, if the only bids that the mayor gets back is for a development of 19 homes, can he accept that bid?
No.
no, it's a restriction.
Gotcha.
Amy,
Is that industrial? I know there's a sliver right there that's industrial.
It's B2, I believe.
Is it B2?
Which it means it's R2 because it's adjacent
Well,
to R.
Whatever.
right.
Jason.
So, now that I'm thinking in some other places in the city where we want to have lots, sizable lots for development, I think I'm okay with that because of the zone that it's in, and it possibly could be a business moving in, right? So, if it were an R1, I would consider, making that amendment, but considering that it's in a business zone adjacent to an R2, I think it should.
I just fought for the reason, but I honestly didn't want to read it. I don't want any restrictions on what I say. That's up to you guys. If you give me the freedom to sell to the lowest or the highest and best bid.
could I make a recommendation? Could I suggest that possibly we have discussions prior to the next meeting and either digest this as is or come up with a compromise, because it sounds like you want something, Nate wants something, and I hate for us to rush through this. It died for lack of a second, and it's not really thinking through. So
here's what, if we talk about compromise, here's one more option to get this just going, because we've been trying to do it for a month. You could put at least 12. And honestly, at that point, anything past that is negotiated in the deed, right?
Well, I mean, the way this is written is it has to be the construction, it has to be residential development, it has to be started within 1 year, it has to conclude within 3, it has to have a minimum of 20 residential dwellings. So the bid, whoever the successful bidder is, you are able to accept anything over 300,000. But whoever the successful bidder is, the deed that you deed.
I know, but anything past that. So
yeah, they can always go.
So I could even say, better, like, they could have a $4 million bid, and I say, well, I want it to be $5 million at that point, because it's lesser, or it's higher restriction than what you put on there. Does that make sense?
No, I mean,
you're just putting a restriction on it that you say I can accept. But as far as when we go to do the deed, it could be at the point where whatever is negotiated past that, outside of that, as long as those are met.
As long as these minimums are met.
Yes. So if you amend it to 12, I can still tell them it's got to be 20.
Period.
Right?
No, because these will be the restrictions. Now, are they?
That's the minimum.
Right, they're able to build 20, but I don't think you would be able to compel them to build 20.
I'm going to say that it's not the best bid then.
Well, they're authorizing you to accept any bid over 300,000. The bid is going to be for a dollar amount. The bid is not going to contain these restrictions. It's not like you're bidding a concrete job or a.
Yeah, I know, but the deed though can have, if someone comes to me with 20 versus 12, I can take the 20. As long as it's over 300 and it meets all the other minimum restrictions.
They're not. The bid's not going to have that. The bid's only going to be a dollar minimum. Because it says the successful.
Well, then how are we going to determine if their specs and their bid is valid if it doesn't have those minimum restrictions in the narrative?
You're not. What you're doing is you're accepting any bid over $300,000.
Then the bid documents are going to have that though, like where they have to fill that out.
That's not how it works. It's not how it works. It's different. You're thinking of a bid on the street. A bid in real estate is different. It will simply be a price. Then, whatever bid you accept, the successful bidder, you will provide them a deed. That deed will have restrictions and covenants in it. If they don't comply with these restrictions and covenants, that property reverts back to the city.
Right, but when we do our deeds with Land Bank, that's how it is. It's based on what they tell us they're putting in. So it's about like what kind of structure, what they're doing. Those things can be put in our bid documents that we put out.
They can, but that's not what you're doing here. So if that's what you want to do, then I think this entire ordinance needs to be reworked, because that's not what this is doing.
Why?
Well, because of what I just said.
No, but that doesn't make sense though. Why they wouldn't have to put in what they're wanting to do.
Because they only have to bid a dollar amount.
Correct.
But how are we going to know if it's a valid bidder? Like, because the other one's talking about 50 jobs.
We have no recourse until after
income tax. So the industrial part, how would we know how many jobs legitimately? We wait till they build it and then shut it down.
Yes.
And then it reverts back to the city if it's non-conforming. Yes.
That's exactly how it says.
So how do you pick the best bid?
It's the highest price.
Yeah.
Whoever bids the highest.
But it doesn't say the highest bid. It says any bid over 300. Does it not?
Right, but you would, I guess some people would take the highest, right? Would you take a lower bid?
Well, if someone's going to, maybe someone lowballs us or gives us a high number with a low value, is what I'm saying.
Very.
Okay, so my first question is, and I don't know if this is right turnaround, that's correct, but, if we're gonna table this, is,
We don't have to table it, it's first reading.
okay, that's my first question. So, ordinance 2433 will not specifically die, correct? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So,
It'll just be on the next agenda for second reading.
okay, then the second part of this question then is, I'm sure finance, but should we have a committee meeting to talk about all of the different things, you know, like,
If necessary, yes. It wouldn't be finance because it's not just expending money.
strategic?
I was getting ahead of you because you were pointing the name.
Yeah, well, I was
Okay.
thinking maybe, but you're right, strategic. Okay. All right, that's all.
Hey,
Section C says, these restrictions will create at least 20 jobs. We're open to whatever, residential or commercial. And
I
there,
guess
we,
that's
I mean,
who spends the most money. For lives, or
I feel like there's going to be, we're going to have to just, make no move on this, but I would like to have a quick, probably 15-minute meeting. We've got, what do we have next? We've got a Parks and Rec and
we have strategic planning September 12th at 5:15, just FYI.
can we add that
Absolutely.
to the agenda?
Absolutely.
I'd like, and also I'd like more clarification. Do we want to make this residential or promote it as commercial?
this is to get a bidding war between whoever.
The way this is written, it's only residential.
Right,
Wait, I
that's
thought
what I was
the
going to say.
industrial-
Is
I
Section
thought the
C
business
needed
part-
in there?
Oh, we had that in there, I thought, when we sent the email. There was the section about or a business that has 50
It says
city
20.
tax deductible
Raleigh,
jobs.
you.
Well, Mike, I think we're already going that direction. What would we need to do to rework it to have more framework?
So two or three things. Number one, there's no industrial component to this.
Right.
So if you want an option for an industrial component, it needs to be reworked. Number two, this ordinance
It would have to be
provides.
rezoned. I'm sorry.
It have to be rezoned too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be going through the zoning process, which then, to your opinions, we might as well just flush this one.
Right. The other thing, this ordinance, the way it's written, this may not have been the intent, but the way it's written was designed for the council to authorize the mayor to accept the highest and best bid on the property that exceeds $300,000 after advertisement once a week for 5 consecutive weeks in the newspaper of general circulation. That's a legal requirement that's necessary. Any bidder then gets the property subject to these restrictions. If the restrictions aren't met, it will revert back to the city. That's how this is designed. That doesn't mean that's how you have to do it, but that's how this one goes.
So we could.
Yeah, this is wrong. I think this one's wrong because the other one, originally there was 4 points and one of them was a business that has 50 city tax deducted jobs. It could be either or.
Mr. Perry.
Do we have time to add commercial and industrial in on that September 12th meeting? So I agree. We need to have that industrial and commercial component verbiage.
We could,
That's rezone.
we could refer it out, but it would be public utilities. It'd have to, right?
Yeah, and it would have to be rezoned.
So,
It's
yes.
not zoned.
That'd be a arduous task.
You got something?
Yeah, just regarding this, I really, we had a lot of discussion in council when this was going to be a jail. I don't necessarily, and this is just my opinion only, I'd rather see it be residential rather than a business come in and us, the same residents come in and have, that wasn't a good, which that was not on us, that was the county's decision. But I'd rather go the residential route rather than open it to a business that the residents around there have already fought for no jail. You know, I think they want that neighborhood to be residential, so.
And to Sam's point.
I found the
there's
language,
Yeah.
and there was just it's the same as that section 2, but where it says by the Lawrence County Auditor, at least 20 jobs, it's supposed to say Lawrence County Auditor or commercial industrial development creating at least 20 jobs that withhold city income tax. That was supposed to be in there.
It couldn't say industrial.
No.
Right.
I mean, you can, but you have to rezone that lot. As it sits now, it can only be a business. But you can rezone it.
So just commercial,
Yes.
not commercial industrial. Yeah, that was in the language, but it's missing on here.
So I had a motion to amend. You want to rescind?
I rescind that motion.
And then I was going to say in miscellaneous we have a strategic planning, but I'll repeat that in miscellaneous.
No, I was just gonna say we just take no action, move on, and rework this.
And it's also it got a favorable recommendation by finance, but it didn't need one. Correct? It was just done as a formality to get on the record.
Correct.
Okay. Nate.
Oh, I just want to say, you know, I wanted to get this moving. That was my intent for this. I don't want it to sit. I want it to be productive for the city. So,
Sure.
and if we can come up with whatever, it's fine. Work with the mayor and Brigham and trying to come up with some language. So if we want to do that, have a plan meeting
So let's not wait then.
to do that.
Yeah, it'd be ideal to move as fast as possible.
I'd
Advertise
I'd
for
rather
3
do.
weeks.
I'd rather it's doing nothing now, but getting cut.
Okay.
That's just me.
So yeah, you're gonna move it.
Okay.
But if you're gonna do industrial, that changes it.
Have no
No,
appetite
it's
for
just
zoning.
commercial.
Mr. Haney can do the zoning in a year and a half. But I have no appetite for that.
I think with us not taking any action, we weren't going to take any action on it tonight anyway, I don't believe. So I don't think it's moving our timeline back. I think it's just reworking it to a well-organized working ordinance for the next meeting.
I'll address the miscellaneous. Moving on to resolutions, if the clerk could please give resolution 2430 reading by title only.
Authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Allard Excavation LLC for the South Fifth Street and Maple Avenue paving ADA ramp project and declaring emergency.
Bob.
Finance Committee give this a favorable recommendation, and I'd like to make a motion to pass resolution 2430.
Haney.
Sorry.
Perry. Discussion.
This falls back into the same realm of the last vote that we had for South Third Street project. For a matter of record, I'm not particularly in favor of awarding Allard more work when there's work on the north end. The phrase that I used was, I didn't want to see Ironton bookended between work that's happening on the north end that seems to be causing problems, and more work for Allard on South Third or South Fifth.
Other discussion. So they were the only one that bid on the project. That just FYI. Haney.
Truthfully, I wholeheartedly support this ordinance because I've probably received as many phone calls about Maple Street as I have the North End project. So I'm 100% standing by this resolution.
Roll call, please.
Brown.
Aye.
Cleary.
Aye.
Hany.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Perry.
No.
Resolution 2430 passes. If the clerk could please give resolution 2431 reading by title only.
2024 salary resolution establishing salaries for non-union employees and declaring an emergency.
Bob.
The Finance Committee give this resolution a favorable recommendation. I'd like to make a motion to pass resolution 2431.
Haney.
Quick discussion in a second. The mayor stated this was just a correction from the previous one, how long, watch that. Yeah,
July 25th.
July 25th, second. Now, second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Aye.
Cleary.
Aye.
Hany.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Leary.
Aye.
Resolution 2431 passes. Moving on to miscellaneous, I did want to mention, there were 2 people involved in these committees that didn't hear this last time, so, strategic planning committee meeting was called for, September 12th at 5:15, to discuss the Fair Labor Standards Act, is that right? Did I say that right?
Yes.
And impact on our budget related to that. We will need the solicitors for that. And then also we called a Parks and Rec committee meeting for
28th, or the 20th.
August 26th, which is our next meeting, I believe. It's
22nd.
22nd. Oh, it was September 26th. That's why, because we needed some time. It's just, I guess I should correct that. September 26th at 5:15 for the Parks and Rec.
I got one.
September 26th, 5:15, Parks and Rec. And the mayor needed more than just this month, right? Saying that needed to be pushed back as to the end of September. And then finally, for strategic planning, I'd like to call a meeting prior to our next council meeting, whenever that is, 14 days from now. 22nd. Look at that, Meyer. August 22nd, and we'll do that 5:15 just to give you time if you need finance, but to discuss ordinance 2433, and we wouldn't have to give that recommendation, but just to discuss and recommend some amendments or leave as is ordinance 2433. I don't think the solicitors would be needed for that discussion. Do you foresee
For the,
for ordinance 2433?
oh, yeah, yeah,
Think so?
yeah.
Think
So
so?
that's on, yeah,
All right.
that's on the 26th.
Why not?
22nd.
You're volunteering because that's Mike.
Right.
So solicitors present
August 27th.
for August 22nd, sorry, August 22nd, 5:15 PM, strategic planning meeting to discuss ordinance 2433 with the solicitors. I think that's my miscellaneous. Perry, I saw you first.
I need to beg off for August 22nd and won't be here. Don't know what that has to do for a vote, but
Okay.
let the body know that
Okay.
I'm here.
So that means, strategic planning, your public utilities.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
I just meant as far as
That also impacts our ability to pass that as an emergency with a 5-week publication period, so, please let me know if there's anybody other than Mr. Perry that has a conflict that night. Just give me a heads up, please. Over here. Nate?
I just wanted to clarify on the one for September 12th. That was for the, that's overtime for salary positions. Is that
Yes,
what-
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I had a couple things that I was wondering if I could add to that strategic plan that I've had concerns of and expressed to me.
Okay.
The first is vicious animals and number of animals located in a residential dwelling. And I didn't know if we could add that to the agenda, and maybe Joe Ross and Drew Artis with the name.
Can you ask Joe to be here for that? Mayor?
And the second is camping and encampments on public property, because another specifically Moulton's Field.
Okay.
It's something that if we could add that to the agenda for that strategic plan,
Yes.
and any ordinance possibly needed to address that. And then I had I was looking for an update with the solid waste district fee that was put on. I know we were going to try to discuss that. That's supposed to be in place this month. How we're going to address that, or what we're going to do
PUC
with that cost.
Chris.
I'm public utilities, I'm not the chair of public utilities. I'm rec.
Oh, that's all right. That's me. That's me too. Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's
the first payment. I think the first payment's due to Rumpke, I think, for this month. So
And
can we direct John to withhold
yes.
payment of
Yes.
that until clarified?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need if we are directing John to not do that, do we need a roll call?
Yeah, if you're specifically directing them.
Yeah. Can you make that into a motion so we can get a roll call to direct
Yeah, I'd like to
John?
make a motion requesting the finance director withhold payment for the solid waste district fee to Rumpke for any future billings.
Haney. Second. Roll call.
Brown.
Aye.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Harry.
There you go, John. That's on the meeting minutes for you to withhold a Rumpke payment until further notice.
As it relates to that particular.
Yeah, as it relates to the solid waste district, I think you
Did I not say that?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
I'll just make it clear that it's not the entire Rumpke thing.
right. In regards to the additional fee, the Lawrence Scioto Solid Waste District.
Okay. And what did you call the PUC for?
I hadn't yet,
Okay.
but I'll give that thought. I had Perry and then Haney.
This strategic planning is going to be interesting. Can we add discussions about composite manhole covers for water meters? Mr. Eden, could you be here?
Let's do that
day?
in public utilities.
You want to do that in public utilities?
Yes, let's do that in public utilities, and I'll call that for.
Could you make it? And there's.
I don't know. I'm looking.
John has something.
John, let me look at my calendar. Go.
It's my understanding that not only will it be Rumpke, but it will be all landfills that receive waste. Is that right, Mayor?
We have a contract with the public for the trash pickup, which has been a renewal for 5 years, which they can hit us when we get back out the bid because the 5 years is up this year. But I don't think we should be, if we have a contract that doesn't state anything about these fees, those companies will have to eat those costs until we have a new contract that states otherwise what our tonnage is.
I would just like it to include all landfill costs, whether they try to pass them on to us rather than limit it to one.
Do we need to amend that? We're only dumping it, right?
That's pretty much the wastewater treatment.
Rumpke is for sludge. It's a separate contract than our sanitation garbage. That goes through the public and it has since 2019 when we first bid it out.
Withdraw and amend that.
Can you tell me again? What's
Just
your
say
recommendation, John?
All landfills.
They got to. We have to
Okay.
withdraw.
I'd like to make a motion to withhold any payment of solid waste district fees for any landfill dumping for the city.
To amend your previous motion.
Correct.
Thanks.
That'll cover
I do the same for myself.
Haney. Roll call again.
Brown.
Aye.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Harry.
Also, public utilities, I think that needs to be sooner rather than later, and you will not be here the next meetings. So can you be here 4:45
On,
the next meeting?
sure.
So we'll do public utilities at 4:45.
August 22nd.
Yeah, and you wanted to discuss manhole covers and composite manhole covers, and what was the other public utilities issue?
Solid waste district fee.
Solid waste district. God, Max will have to be here for that. You'll volunteer him for that, right?
Yeah, I will.
All right. Well, you'll have to man the office by yourself, though. So, we'll do that 4:45. I noted that you will not be here, so me and you are going to have to agree one way or the other. It's just going to be us two.
What else is that?
Public utilities,
Strategic
for
planning.
strategic planning is the 5:15. Yes,
What was the date?
22nd.
22nd.
That was 22nd.
Yes. Thank you.
Mayor, could you invite Rick Jansen to that meeting, please? Thank you.
We also probably want to have Mr. Eden at the PUC. Can you make it 4:45? Okay, thank you.
Sam.
I have a question. Just for the sake of time, what is it that you guys want to change about the selling the property ordinance? Is it just the amount of homes that's on there, or?
I just want to get it, I guess, easier to read and easier to interpret. That's my thing.
Language needs to be added about commercial.
See, we did have that, it just wasn't on there.
And then the other thing too is just come to consensus on 12 versus 20 and do it in a public rather than like, I would feel more comfortable discussing that in committee rather than just a bunch of email chains that I won't read. So
But it sounds like the only thing that needs to be changed is the number of housing units, right?
yeah, possibly. It may be the consensus.
Because I think everything else is in there other than the commercial part.
Yeah.
Which I just wondered if we could amend those and move on forward with it for the sake of time.
The next
Dragging
time
this
we
out
can.
another 2 weeks.
The next time.
This will be December before you sell it.
I don't think there's a consensus tonight, honestly.
But I think we were still in the same situation, weren't we, with, under the current wording, it had to go to highest bidder, you couldn't look at the whole package on the bid, right?
It just says any bid over 300,000.
Down in the section.
Oh, so the end of the headline.
Yeah, look at section.
Yeah, the end says highest and best.
Yeah.
For a second time,
So that means I could pick 20 households, because that would be the best.
I'd rather not keep revisiting ordinance 2433 tonight. We'll do it at the next meeting on the
I don't think
22nd.
you guys figure it out.
Yes.
I was gonna sell it.
And then one other miscellaneous item, I had sent a request to the solicitors. I don't know if you all saw it, but regarding fencing and swimming pools. I've always been under the impression that fencing was required. I looked through our codified ordinances and could not find such, and I guess it's homeowners insurance that really requires it and not the city. So I'm going to sponsor legislation that be required. I didn't want that to surprise any of you all, but I don't know that it takes care of the immediate need in a residential area, because even if we pass it, there's some autistic children in the neighborhood. If you didn't see the email, that there's no fence around a pool in that neighborhood, and even if we pass that, it won't be retroactive, right? So they would be granted non-conforming use of that.
I don't believe so, because it's not a zoning restriction, so I think we're thinking zoning. I think if you pass a law that requires citizens that have a pool to put a fence around it, and they don't have one, they don't have to do it.
Okay. Well, that really helps with all the problems. I gave you the little background about it, why that was requested of us, but I think it's common sense, and I think most people, if you polled most people, they would think that was a requirement anyway. So I don't think it's going to catch any pool owners off guard to know that they're going to have to put a fence up around their pool.
It is in our property maintenance code. I got names wrong.
Property maintenance code?
660, I think, maybe. Yeah, I believe it's chapter 660 is what Terry's got. Susan told me it's in the property maintenance code.
I don't know how you can enforce that. Is that what your question is?
Yeah. It's unclear whether we can enforce that as is, Sam, so anyway, to be clear on that language, I'll sponsor whatever is needed, and I just wanted you all to be aware so it didn't catch off guard as to why. Mr. Perry.
I heard you loud and clear, sorry, and so I'll ask forgiveness rather than permission in this particular case, moving forward. I gave a commitment to Joe Unger. He couldn't make it to the meeting this evening, that I would address council and the mayor and so the letter he sent was, good morning, Chris. I'm writing to ask if you as a member of Ironton City Council could help to draft a resolution concerning historic structures in the city of Ironton. The heart and soul of our community partly depends on the memory and celebration of our past. Architecturally significant buildings are a significant part of this memory. That being said, I wish to point out a beautiful building that is suffering from extreme neglect. This building is the old Marlowe Theater building located at the corner of 3rd and Park. I have contacted the mayor and he referred me to Susan Dooley. I have reached out to Ms. Dooley over the past several years about this building, and she informs me that there's nothing that she can do because the owner is working on the structure. His work here is hilarious. Ms. Dooley was also no longer returning any of my calls. The owner, whoever that is, seems to be poking the city in the eye with a sharp stick. The owner of the building has had open windows, falling debris, etc. Nothing seems to be getting done. I fear out of spite that he could simply demolish it. The original theater still exists inside, which includes marble floors, staircases, brass railings on balcony, etc. I ask for you to please speak to City Council and have City Council strictly enforce restoration or remediation of the building, which lies at the very center of our downtown map, while not destroying or removing any historical assets. Be a bulldog, but I heard no more. Sincerely, Joe Unger.
Could I request, Mr. Perry, that you forward that to Marta to make part of communications for our next meeting?
Okay. Yep. Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Mr. Haney.
The question for the solicitor is, can we force a property owner to maintain historical significance?
I don't know that the city council has that authority. I think if it is a registered historic building, then the state of Ohio has some say-so in what transpires, but I don't know that the city could tell a property owner, because this is an old building, you have to do this. I don't believe you could.
Can you pass that along, Mr. Hunter?
We also, the reason why she said that, and as I've told him many times before, Bill told the commercial building inspector is over issuing those permits and making sure that they do what they're doing. And he's actually been a stickler on them more than anyone, which has kind of halted a lot of the progress because, he's not issuing permits until it's exactly the way he wants it. So there's two ends of that going.
Yeah. Okay. The complication is that because it's a business, the state has zoning authority. They can't they can't suggest things that are outside our zoning code, but they can suggest further things that are in Ohio Revised Code. So there's two levels of zoning to deal with that building.
Gotcha. I'll let you know what you said.
Who
moved. Second. Bob. And Haney. Roll call, please.
Brown.
Aye.
Cleary.
Aye.
Hany.
Aye.
Harvey.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Right.
Carried.
Thank you. We are adjourned.